Welcome back to another episode of Slice and Dice Ecom. I'm Josh, the founder of the agency, and once again we're joined with
Dan, the senior SEO specialist at ClickSlice.
And in this episode, what we want to do is discuss not our new sponsor, Costa, wink wink. That's not a sponsor, by the way, I wish. What I want to do is discuss a topic, again, which is really hot at the moment, which is AEO, ranking in AI search, ChatGPT, but predominantly how small brands can win in this next evolution of search in comparison to massive retail giants like Wix, B&Q, Homebase. So let's dive straight into it, right? So how has this new fundamental shift in search even the playing field between larger brands and smaller brands in AEO?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually something that I think is quite surprising in that if you can demonstrate that you're a niche specialist, if you're a niche expert, you're easily outranking the big giants at the moment. Now, obviously, there's a bit of a caveat to that. Like, you can't just put up a few blogs and that's it. Like, you have to make sure that you've got a lot of signals feeding into the site, not just from big backlinks and things that worked really well in traditional SEO, but you want to see in particular signals coming from UGC platforms like Reddit, Quora, LinkedIn, anything like that. If you can get a lot of references from those platforms to your brand, to your particular product, one of the things we're seeing at the moment is that visibility score just keeps jumping, like
skyrockets.
Just week on week. Yeah.
So what advantages do smaller, more nimble brands have over larger retailers when it comes to AEO?
I think it's kind of there's something we speak about a lot internally. Like there's a founder advantage. If you're the founder of a particular business, you probably know way more than the marketing department of a big corporate about what your particular niche is about. And in particular, you have to think large corporates typically plan out their marketing campaigns like a year in advance.
Ahead, yeah.
So if there's new changes in the environment, they're not going to be building on that quickly. If you have that expertise that comes with just being a founder in your space who genuinely cares about your industry, you're going to be able to very quickly put out content that AI is now starting to get queries for and very quickly outrank those big kind of stagnant, slow moving giant brands. This is something I've seen a lot with your content. Actually, you are a founder of one of the top, well, the top actually agency in the UK. How have you found that's helped you kind of rank quickly in AI?
Massively. I guess in like SEO, traditional SEO is like EAT, right?
Exactly.
There's definitely an element of that in AI search. I mean, even like the content I have on Udemy, the courses, someone taking our course and then searching for ClickSlice as a brand signal, but it's coming from our content, where people just say, oh yeah, get more brand signals. And it's like, okay, let's do that. But if you realize it comes from content and it's putting the hours in and doing the work, it definitely does help. And I think if you're running a brand, maybe a sub 2 million, maybe sub 1 million, you should probably still be quite proactive in the brand, depending on what type of products you're selling, if it's subscription based and whatnot. But again, you will know more about that industry than most people that are working, for your company. So it is your duty to keep putting content out there. And it also applies to social, putting on LinkedIn. A lot of these pages gets indexed and actually picked up by the AI models as well. So essentially, the more content you put out there and become the authority, the more it helps you rank in AI models for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a major edge that I think most people just don't realize they're sitting on. Like we get it quite a lot with new clients that come through where it's like, should we go after these big terms and do this? It's like, actually focus on the more specific stuff. Because right now, like if you're going after, let's say B&Q's kind of content or their product pages, you're going to struggle.
It's tough.
But if you're going after specific help guides and they're genuinely very insightful and they reference your kind of product, that's the kind of stuff that we're seeing is what Google's actually trying to reward. And it seems to be being parroted by the answer engines as well.
Yeah. So that kind of goes into my other question actually, like, in particular, what strategies can smaller brands implement that larger brands can't do?
I would say the biggest one is comparison style content. So you have to think with bigger brands, they're a lot more exposed to kind of meaningless legal cases where you've referenced some other brand somewhat negatively in comparison to your own. That can cause a whole lot of trouble for them. So they just don't touch it. It's not that there is actually a legal case there. You are allowed to fairly compare against you and your competitors. But typically the larger brands don't touch that. Now, what AI engines in particular are doing is they're looking for that content. They want to know, because think about when people are searching in AI, what are they searching? They're like, what's the best office chair for back pain, say? That's a comparison style question. 100%. So they want to reference comparison style content. And then assuming you've set that content up correctly, if you put in structured content that gives kind of table style comparisons, which we know are heavily favored in answer engines, then you're going to see a huge lift.
Yeah, and I think when you're a smaller brand as well, you have more flexibility in terms of the content types that you can actually publish and promote. So, great example is like ClickSlice. We're running an AEO campaign for our site. We're dominating AEO visibility. It's going great, right? And we've got content that may be like the top 10 Shopify SEO agencies in the UK, right? And we can do that, and within reason, some other agencies can do that as well. But when you get to a certain like revenue threshold, sometimes it's not commercially viable. It doesn't make sense, to put that out for your stakeholders to be seeing that, and it may,
and
get
sometimes there's relationships and agreements with existing competitors that you can't violate by doing stuff like that, and 100%. So they're stuck. And ultimately, this is that. It's relevant to the title. Like, there's a David and Goliath kind of situation that you have to think about. Like, yes, they are significantly stronger in other areas. If you try and compete with them on those areas, you're not going to win. If you compete in the areas and in the territories they can't play in, you're going to beat them very easily. And this is something we see and do all of the time. So
yeah, I think it's massive, and it's almost like you're fighting with one hand tied behind your back.
Yeah,
like literally, it's a massive advantage. I think too many brands are still sleeping on this.
Yeah,
they think, there's no way I can outrank B&Q in ChatGPT, and it's like, one of the easiest to outrank because they're not actually doing AEO. They're just leveraging the standard authority from traditional SEO.
Yeah, and it comes back to that first mover advantage kind of idea. Like, if you find AI optimization complicated, so does everyone else.
Yeah, everyone does.
Nobody really has like the exact strategy right now. So because the field is wide open, and because the bigger players in the space are not going to gamble on new strategies that might work or might not work. But if you're a nimble, kind of lean, smaller business, you can test something. If it doesn't work, remove it, redirect it into something else.
It is a big problem to solve, right? But the bigger problem to solve, the bigger the reward as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So you obviously discussed quite a bit about smaller brands dominating, outranking larger brands in AEO. Have you seen any examples of this that you can reference?
It's one area where I kind of test this somewhat semi-regularly. If you look for specific, high-quality supplement brands, stuff like that, places like Amazon aren't being recommended that often for the place where you actually go and buy. It's actually the website itself. So how has that actually worked? It's that website has convinced that AI engine that they are the expert on this particular supplement. And then when you actually click through the links that they have, you'll see that the content on those pages super detailed. If you go to Amazon, sometimes the product listings are pretty good, but for the most part, it's kind of
hit and miss, right?
Yeah, very hit and miss. So you can do this test yourself. Just test. Go for like quite specific requirements, and then you'll see that it's not recommending the big retailers. It's actually recommending the specialist brands. I mean, I think you've seen this with Kia.
So for those who are watching and unaware, we acquired an Ecom brand last year, October, and essentially it's a small Ecom brand. It sells monthly knitting kits, monthly surprise knitting subscriptions, like also with knitting essentially, right? And one of our biggest competitors in the space is actually a brand that got investment from Dragon's Den, from Two Dragons. So they got a lot of budget in the back end on the marketing, and we're absolutely smashing them in AEO search. And traditional search, they've got a good, a good foot in, to be fair. We're still on page 1 in position 3 or 4 last time I checked for our main keywords. But in AEO, we're number 1 across absolutely every single thing. So I think that's a perfect example. And that's also why we acquired the brand, right? To test strategies. So when we speak to clients about this,
prove what you're saying.
We actually have a lot more confidence in what we're saying. We're not just following what someone said on LinkedIn, essentially.
Yes, yeah.
So how does the conversational nature of AI search benefit smaller, more specialized e-commerce brands?
Yeah, I mean, this is a big area where it's very easy for smaller brands to kind of pivot into this style of content. Like, ultimately, it's not necessarily a waste of time for larger brands, but it's very difficult for them to go, you know what, this longer tail query that we can see here, it probably has 50 searches a month. Let's not allocate budget to that. Let's go after the one with 15,000 searches a month. What they are obviously missing is that those little volume terms are usually further down the buying kind of journey than just traditional kind of like your main SEO terms that you target. So because you have a lot of in-house knowledge, or you should do if you're a specialist in your particular industry, it's very easy for you to create content that actually matches those queries that people are searching. And so this is something we've brought up in previous podcasts. You can find out what those queries are if you type in, like I said before, like what's the best office chair for back pain. If you type that into Perplexity, say, it will tell you the exact queries that it's searching to come up with the solution for that.
Reverse engineer the process, right?
Yeah, you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. Certain tools will tell you exactly what it is that they're reading to discern that outcome. All you have to do is then build content to match that, obviously high quality content.
Playing poker, right? Someone shows you the hand.
Yeah,
like it's
exactly
insane.
It. Yeah, exactly it. So I guess piggybacking off that, what kind of content types are we seeing that actually get those results for brands?
There's a lot. We've tested about, 10 10, 12 different content types since we started testing our AEO service in February, which by the way, we just launched in September. So it's a lot of testing before we like roll this service out, which just shows how much work goes into it. I think number one, like if you put the content types to the side and just look at what you already have, whether it's UGC content and reviews, that needs to be accessible. Make sure it's crawlable. Make sure you're creating content, FAQs, and most brands will know the questions customers ask them. You should be having content on your website that answers those questions, because if people are asking you those questions, they're most likely going to be asking Google and also asking ChatGPT those questions. But I think the biggest content we see to be winning AEO right now is the LTC content. And
absolutely.
That's obviously we find ourselves a lot in-house. We put a lot of thought into it, the way we structure it, who we feature, the schema we have, the order, the tonality, the keyword density, the word count. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes into it.
It's pretty advanced.
But we've pretty much refined that process to the fact now where when we publish this LTC content, typically in 3 weeks we're ranking in ChatGPT, which is insane.
Yeah, very.
Because you do the same thing on traditional search and it's like 6 to 9 months. So we've got a really cool method that works really well.
Yeah, I think one thing that we're seeing as well is I think people are quite surprised by how much budget you actually need to do this, particularly like existing clients, because they'll obviously be spending whatever it is they're spending each month with us. And then they're like, but is AEO going to be the same again? And typically, it isn't necessarily the case.
No, I totally agree. And talking about budgets, because this question I get asked a lot on discovery calls, like how much budget should we need to allocate to ranking AI search and ChatGPT, right? And it's like, how aggressive are you trying to be?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like saying, how much petrol do I put in my car? Well, how far are you trying to drive? Like, you trying to drive to Scotland, or are you trying to drive 10 miles down the road? Right? So I think it's all subjective, and ultimately it all comes down to your appetite as well. Some brands are very pro AI, other brands are a bit hesitant. Some brands want to completely avoid it. But our approach, what we recommend is at least build a solid foundation. Even if you're not going to actively invest in AI search every single month, at least invest a lump sum initially, have a strong foundation, and you're in a very good position, and most likely ahead of 70% of brands out there anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
So imagine we've got a brand that is invested in AI search, right? They know they want to be seen in ChatGPT. They know this is the next evolution of search. They know they need to be number one, and they can get a head start. How do we track this? Because I guess Ahrefs isn't the best. Google Search Console's not the best, right?
No, the traditional tools have fallen massively short at the moment. Like none of them at present are particularly good at this. That may change in a couple of months, but as of the date of recording, the traditional tools are not where you need to be looking. If you have the right kind of budget and you're taking this seriously, we have in-house enterprise level tools that can not just show you if you are ranking in AI engines, it actually shows you how much of the share of the common queries that people are searching in these tools do you actually own, and it changes day to day, and we can properly track that. If you're not at that point yet in your business and you just want to start seeing like, is this actually working, is this something that we need to invest in, the easiest way is just ask the AI, like, what's
Literally.
the best, let's say you're a very, very small scale, let's say you're a plumber, what's the best plumber in X area? If you're not showing, you need to start looking at AI.
100%.
The second area, and this is the area where I think once you've gone past that very basic stage, you need to see, are you actually getting AI traffic, and is it increasing? The only way you can actually do this currently, if you don't have access to the tools that we have access to, is you can go inside your Google Analytics. You can find the source/medium report, and that will show you which channels you're getting traffic from, and specifically which.
Down, right?
Yeah. And so you'll see in there ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, like all of the engines show. What you then need to see is apply the date filter, compare it against the previous 30 days, 60, 90. Is that traffic increasing? If you've got meaningful traffic in there, what you can then do is a custom events report. So what that'll then do is filter by that source/medium and then tell you, are those people taking conversion-based actions on your page? It's all good getting traffic to AI, but if it's just linking to a blog that
It's not really adding to the
that's
bottom
not
line,
like
is
a
it?
high commercial intent kind of structured
Well
blog.
said.
Yeah, it's
Well said.
yeah. So then, based on that, what are you advising currently to business owners that they need to do to kind of shift their mindset to get on top of this and get that first mover advantage?
I think first is don't be intimidated. I think a lot of brand owners are just scared of AI. They think they're going to ruin the business. It's going to disrupt a lot of things. People will lose jobs, and it's part of that is obviously true, depending on what business you run. But ultimately, you need to embrace this because it's not going anywhere. Just because you don't like it, you don't agree with it, it's not going to just check out essentially. So what we're finding right now as well is at this moment in time, ranking in AEO, ranking in AI, all these platforms is not that difficult, and we'd actually all agree it's easier than ranking in Google at the moment.
At
and
present.
this will change. And what we're seeing right now, I believe it's the same thing we saw, in the early 2000s when Google first came out and everyone started jumping on the Google wave. Like you could rank by spammy backlinks, spammy keywords, keyword stuffing, right? And that's like obviously not great SEO quality regardless, but it worked, right? And a lot of people made a lot of money from doing that. Now, did we recommend doing that? 100% no. But if you can come into this early and actually, you know, roll out high quality, effective strategies, you are going to be unbeatable because you're training the models that you are the best for this brand. So for them to recommend someone else, someone needs to convince that model, no, forget you, it's now me. And the more data you put out there, the more content, the more you essentially convince the models and the more you solidify your position in the market.
Yeah, because they start, the interesting thing as well is they start referencing themselves. So like if you've locked in that first mover advantage and you've got that like pole position right out the gate, it's going to be harder and harder as the months go by for people to take that off you. So if you can get it now, it's never going to be as easy as it is currently. It's only going to get more difficult.
Pole position is everything. And for my Formula One fans out there, it's like Max Verstappen being on pole at Brazil. He's not losing it, is he, guys? So same opportunity you have right now in the space of AEO. But amazing. Cool. Thank you again for watching. I've been Josh. That's Dan. And stay tuned for another episode coming out in 2 weeks' time. See ya.